Hi, I'm Brad Knowles, producer of Friday Night Flies, hosted by Scott LeBoldis and Scotty Holmes. Enjoy the show.
Alright guys, here we are, another Friday Night Flies. So this weekend was really cool. So we had a big sale and a big event going on. We had Art Lindgren come in the store, which was pretty wild. Got to watch him tie a fly. I know Brad's probably still giddy about that, and he got to keep the fly, which was pretty cool. So we got to see him tie this black spay fly. I know that's a video that we probably may already have up on the site, not sure yet, as I'm filming this on Monday. So yeah, definitely check that one out. It's quite special to have a legend like that tying something in front of you. It was pretty cool. So during this demonstration, I know Brad and Scott did a nice fishing video, and we did a little bit of tying as well with a new face. We got Brendan from the shop. He's, or not from the shop, from Tawasin here. He's a young guy, one of those young guns, you know, those kids that tie really well. So yeah, we had a few videos there. We'll probably post those up at some point as well. Again, this being Monday, they're probably already up. The video I was trying to do was a composite loop tutorial on a Sculpin pattern, which is this green little guy. We'll go down and show you guys what they kind of look like. It's a very popular method for tying intruders and stuff like that. So it's a very versatile technique. It was kind of tough to film when we were doing it, so I'm going to go a little more step by step, a little bit slower, kind of show you guys how to do it. So buckle up. Hopefully you got some popcorn, nice cold beverage. Let's head on down and check this one out. Alright guys, so here we go. A little composite loop tutorial for you. So we had, can't remember who it was, he was messaged us about learning about dubbing loops. He was struggling with them a little bit. So hopefully this helps you a little bit. This is a little bit more of an advanced technique, but it's definitely a pretty cool one. So just to give you an idea, composite loops are used to make intruders and intruder style flies. So you get these big broad shoulders, you stack a lot of material into them. They're very versatile. So this is another intruder here, black and blue pattern. You see there's a lot of materials crammed in there. We got fox, we got ostrich, we got ice dove, we got flash, we got, you name it. It's a very versatile technique. You can put almost anything in them. This was one of my killer chum salmon flies, pink and purple. Again, lots of materials. It's got some rubber legs in there. Here's another one. This one's been fished, so it's a little beat up. Again, pink and purple, worked really well for chum. Lots of different materials. And this is one here using marabou. That's a killer for lake patterns. Our friend caught a 3-pound cutthroat up in Chilliwack Lake this year, so there's some Amherst, some marabou, stuff like that. Really helps to reinforce really fragile materials. So like I said, it's a really cool technique. This is kind of the version that we're going to do here. This is the one I tied up yesterday at the show. So it's an olive and black Sculpin pattern. It's getting to that time of season. Fish hate Sculpins, they're a fun one. So let's get going here. So this pattern's tied on a shank. So I've got an OPST steelhead shank. This is a size, what are we here? Where is it? 32 millimeter steelhead shank. And to put this in the vise, I've got an HMH tube fly kit. So it's kind of nice because it's got this middle section here that I can actually, hopefully you can see that there, I can jam that shaft in there and it's going to lock it in place when I tighten it down. So we're going to, let me just make sure that's lined up how I want it. Good enough for me. Crank that up. For thread, you want to use a really thick thread here. I've got some 210 Danville here. Looks like it came out of the bobbin here. Just give me a second. See if we can get that going. There we go. So some 210 Danville in black. Start that right behind the eye. I'm going to work my way back. So this one's, like I said, it's going to take a little time to get through this. I'm going to try to explain it as best I can. It's a really cool technique, like I said. Just trim that away. Now, just like with these pink and purple ones here, I've attached the hook to a strip of rabbit so that the hook can swing with the tail. So it's really, you get a lot of movement out of this fly. So for the hook here, I'm just going to take some braid. I happen to have some 50-pound J-braid. I've cut off maybe 6 or 7 inches or so. I'm just going to double it over. And it's kind of fighting me there. I'm going to make a loop. So that loop is going to be hanging off the back. I go about roughly a little longer than the length of the hook shank. you want to have enough room to put your hook on. So depending on the size of the hook, you're going to make that loop bigger or smaller. So I'm just going to tie that in on top here. Make sure it's sitting how I like. There we go. Just going to wind that up to the front, right on top of the shank. Just going to get that really nice and tight. You can use super glue to reinforce it, but I find once I do this next step, just going to trim these a little bit. Good pair of scissors helps. That was not the best cut. Basically just going to shove those ends through the eye of the hook, or through the eye of the shank, I should say. There's one. What's that dubbing pick? Usually kind of just shove them through there. Use a smaller braid. It'll work a little bit easier for you. A 40-pound would be just fine. Come on. Just wet that down. Shove that through the eye. There we go. So now I got both pieces through the eye. I'm going to pull them down nice and tight. I'm going to secure them on the underside of the shank. Again, nice tight wraps. I'm going to lock that all down. That's okay. We're going to cover it all up anyway. So I got a loop here and a big thread body. So I'm going to take my thread back up to the top. And you can use a cone head if you like. Some of them I have done that. Even this guy here with the marabou. I'm going to put some dumbbell eyes on this. So I've got some, where are they hiding? There they are. Some hairline double pupil brass eyes. I recently picked these up. So this one's fluorescent orange and black in the medium size. They're pretty cool looking. And I'm going to tie these on the underside of the shank. Just some cross wraps. Make sure it's sitting nice and level. Really tighten those down. You can reinforce them with some glue if you like. I don't happen to have any handy. Then we go around the post. Just check how that's sitting. You want it to be nice and level. So basically the eyes are going to allow the fly to go undulate up and down. It's going to have a bit of a jigging action. We're going to have the wiggle from the tail. And the shoulder is going to pulse in and out. So you get tons of movement out of these flies. Just a few more wraps. Really lock them down. You can coat them with some Sally Hansen's or something like that. That'll definitely help to keep the finish on them a little bit longer. Now I normally use a flat braid or a diamond braid. Seem to have forgotten mine at home today. So I'm going to use some Mirage tinsel. This is large opal Mirage. Just as the body. Tie that in at the back here. Get that floating the right way. There we go. I'm just going to wind that right up to the eye. You've seen me use this material before. Depending on the color of underbody, it totally changes the look of the material, which is kind of cool. So again, very versatile for those chironomids and things like that. So I'm going to take this right up to the eyes. Perfect. Just kind of lock that down. Double that over. You can protect it with some super glue if you like. I find the fish don't usually get into the body too much. Now I'm going to take my thread back about a centimeter or so. And I'm going to tie my tail. So my tail for this one is just going to be some rabbit. I got tiger barred rabbit strips there. This is the green and brown over olive. So it's kind of it's got the black barring, the green, and the olive. You can really mix this up. Sculpins in your area. I've seen them in the Squamish in black. I've seen them in olive, like darker colors. It's kind of a fun one to mess around with. So really going to cinch that down. Right on top of the fly. Right on, so that's in there, that's not going anywhere. I'm going to trim this tail a little longer than the loop that I made there, just to have some working room for when I put the hook in. So the best way to do that, just kind of wet your fingers a little bit, part it, cut it nice and close to the hide, trim that away. So there's my tail for now. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to create my composite loop. So I'm just going to readjust the camera here and give you kind of an overhead view. This is one thing we were tying it live with the demo. It's a little tricky to see, so I'm going to have an overhead view. You guys will be able to see everything that goes on. Alright, so just give me a second here. Alright guys, so I've created a little cheat sheet here for you. So each of these lines is 1 inch, okay, just to give you a rough idea of how I build these flies. So on the shank there, we've got about 1 centimeter of blank space that we're going to fill up with this composite loop. So let's get to building it here. So the secret to this is stacking layers of ice dub. So this one here, I'm going to start with some black. I've just got some black ice dub here. And all you're going to do is just kind of pull the fibers out, kind of get them all to length. So you want them to all be roughly the same length. You stack them on top of each other. This is something that takes some practice. It's just material handling. That's all it is. So when we get them all to length, I'm just going to rip it. I'm going to stack it back on top. So now I've got fibers that are about half the length of what they were. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this apart with my fingers. And this is all just basic material handling. It takes practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it. I've been doing this style of fly for quite some time. I'm just starting to feel comfortable with it now. It's one of those things, practice definitely makes perfect. So you want it to be fairly sparse. As you can see, it's not like a big clump of material. If I pull on it, it kind of wants to go everywhere. This is kind of what's fun about the ice dub, is it acts like a Velcro, especially when you sandwich things in between it. Alright, so I'm just going to kind of stack that on the line there. So that's kind of a visual reference for you guys. So I got about let's say 3.5 inches of material there, with ice dub in the middle. Now I'm going to take some Predator wrap. This stuff is kind of the secret to this fly. Really helps to build up the bulk, get all the materials standing up how you want them. So it comes on a string. I've cut off about 1 centimeter length there. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pull the fibers, kind of stack them. See, I kind of pinch them with those 2 fingers, pinch them with my finger and my forefinger there. And I'm just going to cut off about an inch or so. And then I'm going to do the same thing again. So with one of these clumps here, you can get about 3 cuts out of this. So I'm going to go 1, 2, I'm going to stack one more and just get rid of that cord that holds everything together. I'm just going to tuck off to the side, throw my scissors everywhere. Got that all on the line. Like I said, it likes to grab on everything, so there we go. So now I've got a half decent clump of Predator wrap here. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to kind of twist my fingers a little bit, kind of get them all to splay out, kind of like so. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to lay that on top, just like so. It's okay if you have a couple fibers stick to you, it's not a big deal. I'm going to take my dubbing needle here, I'm just going to pull them down. So I'm going to spread it out. It's about 1 inch or so in length. Okay. And just so you know, the color of this Predator wrap is gold, olive, and black. I just picked this stuff up at the outdoor show last week. And it's pretty deadly color. As soon as I saw it, I thought, Sculpins. This is what this color is made for. So I'm going to take another small clump of Predator wrap here. I'll give you an idea. When you take it out of the package, it comes all strung up. It's kind of fun to play with. I start at the back and kind of go from there. Let me just find one of these cords and kind of nipping away at it. So I'm going to take maybe about the same amount again, so about 1 centimeter chunk off of that cord. Just going to tuck that away over there. And as you can see, there's the cord there. It's about 1 centimeter in length. I'm just going to cut away the cord again. And this time I'm going to double it over. So now it's going to be just one cut, quite a bit longer than the last one. You don't have to be perfectly lined up. You want kind of some rough edges. I like to kind of just spin it a little bit, so it's kind of all over the place, and I'll kind of just cut it on an angle. That way nothing's perfectly even. So same as last time, I'm going to put them all together, just kind of splay them out of my fingers a little bit. I'm going to throw that on. So this first clump was 50-50. Half of it was on the line, half of it was on the other side. This one I'm going to go about 80-20. So I've got about 80% of the material on the left side, 20% on the right side. Again, I'm just going to pull that or push it around with the dubbing needle. This is something that takes time to learn. So if you keep practicing, you'll eventually get it. Now I'm going to take, just for fun, like I said, you can stack materials. I got some rusty brown ice dub. Just going to pull some out. And one of those things, you can kind of pull them. A lot of guys will use angel hair and stuff like that. Spin it in your fingers, lay it on top. How's it going, guys?
Good, how you doing?
Pretty good. Yes. Keep sandwiching materials here. If I can get this package open. So this is some black foxtail from Superfly. Again, I'm going to take a half decent clump here, maybe not too big. I'm going to add 2 colors of fox. Cut that off. Get all the underfur out of there. That you can save for dubbing if you like. Again, I'm just going to splay it out with my fingers here. Less is more with this kind of technique. So this I'm going to trim down. See there, I got about an inch or so material. I'm going to lay that on, again, about 80-20, 80% on the left-hand side, 20% on the right-hand side. It's a good way to decorate your house with sparkles and stuff. It's very messy. Now I'm going to take some olive foxtail here. This is going to be my main color on the head here. Again, I'm just going to trim it away. Tidy up the underfur. You can save that for dubbing if you like. Black and olive will definitely look pretty good for some leeches and stuff. And again, I'm just going to splay that out a little bit. So it's very sparse. Once again, about 80-20, right on top. I'm going to add in one more material here just for fun. I've got some Fluorescent Amherst here, fluorescent green. This is a kind of a tricky material to work with. I'm going to cut about an inch or so away from the stem, like so. And a trick that you can do with this, you hold it by the tips, and you run your fingers backwards on it. So this material is going to act like Velcro. So if everything's flowing towards the tips, it's going to Velcro together. If you run your fingers the other way, you can see it kind of spreads everything out. This, I'm going to go maybe a little longer than the fox in the back. Sorry if you can hear that wind, and it looks like we got a pretty noisy reel back there getting spooled up. We are open, we are live. So again, 80-20, right on top of that loop. Now we're going to finish this off. I've got some olive brown ice dub here. I'm just going to take a small pinch here. I'm just going to stack up all the materials. I'm going to roll them in my fingers. Get all the lines tidied up. There we go. And again, I'm just going to rip it. And I might rip it again here. There we go. It's a little bit thinner. Maybe about a centimeter or so in length. Once again, I'm just going to pull my fingers. We want a nice sparse clump here. Don't want it to be too thick. Alright, so like so. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to pick that up. I'm going to throw it right on top. So now I've got the material for my loop ready to go. Okay, now with any luck, you can take your needle. This is the tricky part. You take your needle. You should be able to pick it all up. So as you can see, I got the whole thing up in my hand here. I'm just going to lay that back down. I'm going to reposition the camera, and then we're going to throw it in the loop and show you how to deal with it. Alright guys, so another angle, another step. So I'm going to tie in some material to imitate some gills on this fly. So I've got some medium-sized crystal chenille in red. I'm going to tie that in right back here. Like I said, I got about a centimeter or so in length behind this fly, maybe a little bit more. And I'm just going to go 1.5 wraps there. Just going to pull that back, trim that away. And now I'm going to make my dubbing loop. So all I do to make the loop is I pull out some extra thread, I place my finger on top, hopefully the camera's picking that up there. I double my thread back. You can make this as long or as short as you like. And I'm just going to wrap over the shank a couple times. I'm going to wrap over the thread twice. I'm going to wrap back on it, and that's going to lock it all down. I'm just going to advance my thread forward. So I've got this little dubbing spinner here, which Brad got to play with at our tying demo the other day. He likes it. So I'm just going to let that sit for now. To kind of help accentuate the gills, I've got some red ice dub here. A little bit more. I'm going to grab a generous clump of the red ice dub. This stuff is very stringy and wispy, as you can see. So I'm just going to fold that over. Cut it. I'm going to line up these ends a little bit more. Fold that once more. Again, trim that away. So now I've got some stragglers there. I'm just going to trim those off as well. Just kind of even them up. I'm going to cut them on an angle so they're not all perfect. And what I'm going to do, this is how you would normally use a dubbing loop. So you got your loop, you're going to open it up with your fingers. You're going to slide some of that material in. I'm just going to slide it up to the top there. And what I like to do is I like to hold the loop with my hands. I put my finger behind the material. And with the needle, I'm just going to poke at it. This helps to spread it out here. So that should be about enough. That's about maybe almost 2 centimeters there of material. That's going to give me enough wraps around to coat the side there. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to give this a couple counterclockwise spins. And that's just going to lock everything in place so it doesn't fall out. So this, if we remember, this composite loop that I've done here is quite large. It's about 3 inches in length. One set of material is about 1 inch. We've got another inch. And the ends, the extra material, that's about another inch. We're about 3 inches in total here. I can pick this whole thing up because it's all Velcroed together. If you're just starting out, I would recommend working on one small patch and then another small patch. It just makes it easier to work with. So I'm going to open up that loop again. I'm going to shove everything in there. If you remember that center line that I had on my cheat sheet here, that's roughly going to be where my thread's going to hang out. So the fun part is when it's in the loop, I can now play with this. So I'm going to slide some of this material up, space it out. Just keep going. I can take that dubbing needle, kind of poke everything around. Get it sitting how I want. Amherst, I want to shorten up just a smidge. I'm just going to pull on it a little bit. Perfect. So now I'm ready to spin. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pinch that loop shut. I'm going to spin this clockwise like I just did. And I'm going to slowly pull down on it. And as you see, everything kind of twists. As we do this, I'm going to take my dubbing pick. Anything that gets a little bit matted down and trapped, I'm just going to pick out. I'm going to spin this again. Really going to pull down on that. Another little spin. You can see everything's kind of spinning together there. I'm going to take my needle. I'm just going to pick at it. Anything that comes out, don't worry about it. This is why you want to use thicker thread. It's not going to break when you spin. I've tried it with thinner thread before, and it snaps and you lose all your material. As you can See, we're kind of making a big synthetic hackle here. Give that one more spin. Go. Keep picking at it. Take your time. Pick away. Now I'm going to take a little brush. You can take a dubbing brush if you like, or not dubbing brush, a old toothbrush if you like. This happens to be one of the fancy fly tying ones. I'm going to brush all that out. And as you can see now, we got this big twisted mess of material. So you'll sometimes find a natural part. This doesn't really want to part for me. I'm just going to pull on it just a little bit, pull it back. And the secret to this is water. So I got a little dish here. I'm just going to wet my fingers. I'm going to just get everything a little bit wet. Makes it a little more manageable. Just pull on it. Get them wet again. I'm going to pinch at the thread. Pinch and pull. Pinch and pull. Pinch and pull. Hopefully that's all showing up there. You're going to lose material. It happens. Don't worry about it. So now we got everything somewhat manageable. As I twist my finger, I can control the way this loop is facing. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to wrap this. I'm going to pull it back like a hackle. One wrap in front of the next. Palmer it back as you go. Pull it down nice and tight. One in front of the other. And all this should fit right behind those eyes. Looks like I dialed that in perfectly. Finish off that loop there. I'm going to take it in front now. I'm going to advance my thread forward. I'm going to tie this off in front of the eyes. I'm just going to trim that away. You know what? It doesn't hurt to kind of give a couple wraps behind the eyes as well. We've got a lot of dubbing on there to kind of have a nice head. Now I'm going to whip finish. Nice big whip finish. You can add head cement if you like. Now I'm going to take us down to in front of the fly. I'm going to show you how to finish this one off. Alright guys, so I'm running out of battery here. Hopefully I can get this done in time. So now we got this big glob mess of material here, as you can see. So I'm going to take my dubbing needle and I'm just going to pick it out. So you don't want to dig too deep, because if you do, you can sometimes rip your thread out and then you're got to start all over again. And depending on what you're putting in these loops, sometimes that can be a lot of money worth of material. So that's how we do that there. Just pick it out. Again, that gets any trapped fibers out of the way. Gonna take that toothbrush again. I'm gonna brush everything forward. So again, this helps to get rid of any material that doesn't want to be in there. You can see, there's the gills underneath there. Now, we can just brush this back. So you can be pretty rough with this. They're pretty durable. Basically, that creates that big profile that we want for a sculpin pattern. But it's got the big head. This is the part that's going to pulse in the water. Looks kind of cool. So that's that. Now, basically, to put the hook on, what I would use, I use a Gamakatsu 2308 size 4. I slide it on. Let me just brush all this forward here. I slide it onto the braid, right up to the shank, and I have it riding hook point up. And what I'll do is I'll wrap the loop over the hook, twist it to the right, pull it back over, twist it to the right, put it back over again, and then I keep the loop open and I slide the tail through. And then once I do that, I pull everything nice and tight, pick out any of the fibers, and that's going to have everything cinched down to the tail like so. So as you can see there, you get a lot of movement out of this fly. It's going to pulse like this, the tail's going to wiggle, and it's going to undulate up and down. So you get tons of movement out of this fly. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope it was somewhat easy to understand it. I know it's a very complex technique, but it works really well for making big flies with minimal bulk. So definitely give some up. Let's show some photos on our Facebook page. We'd love to see what you guys are coming up with. Do them in a variety of colors. So that's my composite loop Sculpin. I hope you guys enjoyed. We'll see you next week.